Now, some pupils in the Eastern Cape haven't received their textbooks. That's despite schools closing for the first term this month. The High Court in Makhanda has ordered the Department of Education in the province to ensure that every learner is provided with textbooks and stationery by no later than March 31st. Deputy Director General in the department, Thembani Mtyida, joins me now to get some clarity. A very good morning to you. Thank you for your time. 9 weeks into the school year, and a huge number of pupils are still without textbooks, without stationery. What's the delay?
No, thank you so much, Mpo, and thanks to all your viewers. Mpo, I think that the challenge that is actually besetting the department is actually well articulated in a number of platforms since we started being aware that we have this kind of a problem. But I think I also need to explain that it is not entirely correct to say that learners in the Eastern Cape do not have the learner teacher support material, because after we have experienced all the delays due to budgetary challenges that we have been explaining, but we have finally delivered all stationery to all our schools as we speak. And with regard to textbooks, because the processes for textbooks take longer in the nature of textbooks, because publishers have got to wait until you are able to provide them with specifics in terms of the textbook items per grade that you are actually procuring. So processes with regard to textbooks take longer. But we are finalizing a plan, because as you are indicating that the matter now is in court, we only received the feedback in terms of an order yesterday from the court, and our legal team is working on the contents of the order and shall be advising the department as soon as they are able to finalize the working on the documents.
Okay, so the delay in the delivery of textbooks was caused by a budget shortfall, and you also make mention of the production period, which was something quite crucial. Let's talk a little bit about this court order. So the court order requires the department to provide a report to the court in 7 days, setting out compliance with the order and detailing which schools have not received stationery and textbooks and when they will receive it. And March 31st seems to be the deadline. Will you be able to meet it? I mean, you make mention that all schools have received stationery as you and I speak.
Yes, no, thank you so much. Look, with regard to textbooks again, because as the matter was being taken to court, it's not that the department was sitting doing nothing about it. We have our plans in place. We revised our plans to make sure that all our learners receive textbooks sooner than we had indicated in our initial plan. So there is that process that is actually taking place. But then there is this order that we received yesterday. We are still looking through our legal team. We are still looking at the contents of that order, and we shall be reconciling that order with the plans that we already have in place and going to see what it is that is going to be possible out of that process.
So at this time, you cannot confirm whether or not you will be able to meet that March 31st deadline when it comes to delivering the textbooks?
Not at all. It's not really possible for now to commit to that deadline of 31st. And hence I am saying that is subject to the kind of advice that we are going to be getting from the legal team.
So is this not going to place learners even into a further perhaps disruption of learning when it comes to going into term 2 now?
We need to explain the fact that when you're talking about the procurement of textbooks, it's not that all learners do not have textbooks, because the department provides textbooks to learners on a 5-year basis, because the lifespan of a textbook is 5 years. and that there is a retrieval policy in terms of which each school at the end of an academic year must receive all the textbooks that were given to learners at the beginning of the academic year. And it's one of those areas that we often have challenges. But in the Eastern Cape, the retrieval rate is standing at 92%. Then that tells you 92% of the textbooks are already in our schools as from the beginning of the year. So what we are talking about here, when we are talking about procurement of textbooks, we are talking only about the 8% that we are topping up. So it is not as though that all learners, or all our schools do not have textbooks. 92% of the textbooks is already in our schools.
You didn't want to talk about the reasons for the delay, which results to a budget shortfall. And as far as I'm reading here, when it comes to the sum of money, 267 million rand put aside to purchase these textbooks in December. When it comes to that budget shortfall, how significant was it?
No, it was very significant because we did not even have the 267 million rand that we finally obtained in December. It's some resources that should have actually been provided to the department much earlier than we actually obtained them in December. So the challenge then was very significant because, of course, there are some processes in the LTSM procurement which you cannot shorten, you cannot cut corners, even if you actually like. So, and hence in terms of our sector plan, because we are guided here by a sector plan for the procurement and ordering of LTSM, in terms of which all provinces are supposed to be starting the process as early as June. But then in the absence of budget, it meant for the Eastern Cape that we could only start in January. So that's what it essentially means.
So let's just go back a little bit so there's proper understanding and that you and I are on the same page. You speak about the percentages of schools receiving textbooks, and you make mention of a very small percentage. And I'm looking here that only 748 of the 5,451 government schools in the province received textbooks and other learner support material, meaning that 4,703 are yet to receive its allocation. Are you and I misunderstanding each other?
No, because the figures that you are now quoting refers to stationery, because the stationery that we say now, it is 100% in our schools, was delivered in phases. So that was phase one of the delivery of stationery, where 741 schools benefited from the stock that we had on hand. It has nothing to do with textbooks.
So how many schools now are, looking at numbers, are without the textbooks? I mean, you also make mention of learner support material. Is that different to the actual textbook that needs to be physically delivered to the school?
Yes, of course, the numbers for stationery and textbooks would actually differ because stationery is delivered to all the schools in the province, but textbooks is delivered, as I indicated, on a top-up basis, which means that it is actually based on need. A school actually indicates what they actually require for that particular.
So where to from now? I mean, you have to consult with your lawyers when it comes to the court order, and you're not confident that you'll meet the March 31st deadline. What are you thinking in terms of looking at the second term of the school year and learners who need to have some of these textbooks availed to them?
Madam, as I indicate to you that even before the court order, we had our plan in place. And in terms of that plan, by the 15th of April, we were actually committed that all our schools would have actually received top-up in textbooks, meaning that would have all what needs to be delivered in terms of textbooks. But now, as you say that the court order has its own impositions and the legal team is working on it, we shall see how the two then reconcile, whether it is possible that we can actually shorten the term or the delivery term that we had indicated in our plan.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Let's leave it there for now. Of course, speaking to the Education Department in the Eastern Cape, getting some insight on what the implications are when it comes to the court order of for the Eastern Cape Department of Basic Education, looking at the shortfall of textbooks and also saying that all schools in the Eastern Cape now have their stationery.